Jamie Dimon's story begins in New York City, where the rhythm of ambition, discipline, and hard work shaped the world around him. Born to a Greek-American family with a long history in finance, Jamie grew up hearing conversations about the markets at the dinner table. His father and grandfather were both stockbrokers, men who believed deeply in responsibility, structure, and earning your place through effort. Jamie absorbed these values quietly, the way children do when they listen more than they speak. From an early age, he understood that life rewards consistency more than noise. As a child, Jamie was sharp, curious, and observant. He wasn't the loudest in the classroom, but he had a focus that made him stand out. He asked thoughtful questions, studied problems with patience, and developed a habit of thinking several steps ahead. Teachers noticed his calm confidence, the kind that didn't need attention to feel sure of itself. Jamie didn't dream of wealth or fame. He dreamed of understanding how systems worked and how decisions shaped the world. Growing up in Manhattan, Jamie experienced both the pressure and opportunity that came with living in a city where everyone moved with purpose. His parents encouraged discipline, education, and integrity above everything else. They challenged him to think independently, to take responsibility for mistakes, and to approach challenges without fear. These early lessons quietly built the foundation of the leader he would one day become, steady, thoughtful, and unshaken by chaos. In high school, Jamie's intellectual strengths became clearer. He excelled in math and economics, fascinated by the way numbers reflected human behavior. But he also had a deep interest in psychology. He wanted to understand people, their motivations, anxieties, and the choices they made under pressure. This combination of analytical and emotional intelligence would later become one of his greatest strengths as a leader. Even then, Jamie was learning that leadership isn't only about strategy, it's about understanding people. As he moved into college, Jamie chose to study psychology and economics, blending the human side of decision-making with the structural side of markets. He worked hard, studied deliberately, and stayed grounded in the values his family taught him. Success didn't come from shortcuts. It came from long hours, discipline, and the willingness to learn from every experience. Professors and classmates quickly recognized him as someone who thought deeply before he spoke. And when he did speak, people listened. Jamie's journey eventually led him to Harvard Business School, a place that challenged him intellectually and personally. Surrounded by future leaders, he didn't try to compete for attention. Instead, he focused on listening, understanding, and improving. Harvard exposed him to new ideas, new pressures, and new expectations. But through it all, Jamie maintained the calm, steady presence that had defined him since childhood. He stood out not because he demanded the spotlight, but because he earned respect quietly. During these years, Jamie met Sandy Weil, a powerful figure in finance who became his mentor. Their connection would shape the next chapter of his life in ways neither of them could have predicted. But at this early stage, Jamie was just a young man with discipline in his mind, humility in his heart, and a desire to build something meaningful. He didn't know the challenges ahead. He only knew that he would meet them with the same calm strength he carried since childhood. By the time Jamie completed his studies, he had developed the qualities that would define his leadership: clarity under pressure, emotional intelligence, and a relentless work ethic. He was ready to enter the world of finance, not as someone seeking power, but as someone seeking purpose. And soon, life would test him in ways that would reveal just how steady a leader he truly was. When Jamie Dimon began his career in finance, he entered the industry with a mixture of discipline, humility, and quiet determination. His mentor, Sandy Weil, brought him into the world of corporate strategy and banking, giving him opportunities that few young professionals could dream of. Jamie learned quickly, absorbing every lesson with the same focused attention that defined his childhood. He studied how companies were built, how mergers worked, and how leadership decisions shaped the lives of thousands. He wasn't just learning banking, he was learning the psychology of leadership. Jamie's rise in the financial world was fast, but not loud. Colleagues described him as sharp, calm, and unshakably steady. He wasn't the type to rush decisions or be swayed by trends. He studied numbers deeply, questioned assumptions, and challenged ideas without attacking people. His blend of analytical strength and emotional intelligence made him stand out in a world famous for aggressive voices and relentless pressure. Working with Sandy Weil gave Jamie a front-row seat to one of the most ambitious corporate building sprees in American history. Together, they helped merge numerous companies, building what would eventually become Citigroup. Through each acquisition and challenge, Jamie proved himself capable of handling massive responsibility. He managed teams, solved problems, and navigated complex transitions with calm clarity. His leadership style was simple: listen closely, decide carefully, and execute with discipline. But the financial world is rarely predictable. Despite years of loyalty and remarkable success, Jamie Dimon was suddenly fired by his mentor, a moment that stunned the industry and changed the course of his life. The dismissal came without warning, driven by internal politics rather than performance. For Jamie, it was a painful and humbling moment. He lost his job, his mentor, and a future he had spent years building. Yet even in disappointment, he refused to let anger or bitterness define him. Instead of collapsing under the weight of rejection, Jamie used the setback as an opportunity for reflection. He stepped back, looked inward, and evaluated what type of leader he truly wanted to become. He realized that leadership wasn't about titles or corporate victories. It was about resilience, responsibility, and staying grounded even when life shifts unexpectedly. The firing became a turning point, not a failure, but a recalibration. After taking time away, Jamie eventually found a new home at Bank One, a struggling institution searching for direction. Many viewed the role as too risky for someone with Jamie's reputation, but he saw potential where others saw problems. He believed that leadership mattered most in places where stability had been lost. So he accepted the challenge, stepped into uncertainty, and began rebuilding Bank One from the inside out. Jamie approached the company's struggles with the same calm intensity that guided him throughout his life. He simplified operations, rebuilt trust, and focused on strengthening the fundamentals. Colleagues described his leadership as steadying, like someone turning on a light in a dark room. He didn't rush to fix everything at once. He moved systematically, patiently, and thoughtfully. Slowly, Bank One began to transform. As the company regained stability, Jamie's quiet leadership caught the attention of the financial world once again. He wasn't chasing a comeback. He was simply doing the work, consistent, disciplined, and grounded. Yet without realizing it, Jamie Dimon was positioning himself for one of the most influential roles in modern financial history. Soon, life would bring him to the moment that would define his career, test his resilience, and reveal the power of calm leadership under extraordinary pressure. When JPMorgan Chase acquired Bank One in 2004, Jamie Dimon stepped into one of the most influential positions in global finance. His years of rebuilding, reflection, and disciplined leadership had prepared him for this moment. As he became CEO, Jamie approached the role not as a victory, but as a responsibility. He believed that a company as large and interconnected as JPMorgan needed stability, clarity, and long-term thinking. His focus was simple: strengthen the foundation before expanding the structure. Jamie's leadership style was different from many of the industry's loudest voices. He didn't chase short-term gains or risky bets because he understood how fragile the financial system could be. He emphasized risk management, transparency, and the importance of truly understanding the numbers behind every decision. To Jamie, discipline wasn't a strategy, it was a mindset. He believed that a leader should be prepared not only for growth, but for hardship, uncertainty, and crisis. That crisis arrived sooner than anyone expected. In 2008, the global financial system began to unravel. Markets collapsed, banks failed, and fear spread through every corner of the economy. Companies that once felt invincible were suddenly fighting for survival. People around the world lost homes, jobs, and savings. The panic was immense, and uncertainty dominated every conversation. Yet in the middle of this storm, Jamie Dimon remained calm. While many institutions were overwhelmed by the speed of the crisis, JPMorgan's careful preparation gave it stability when others faltered. Jamie's disciplined approach to risk meant the bank was not as exposed as many of its peers. But that didn't mean he was unaffected. Jamie worked around the clock, studying every detail of the unfolding disaster, speaking with regulators, and guiding his teams through decisions that carried enormous weight. He understood that millions of people depended on the stability of institutions like JPMorgan, not for profit, but for survival. In those chaotic months, Jamie became one of the most trusted voices in American finance. He communicated with clarity, avoided panic, and stayed grounded in facts rather than speculation. His calm presence reassured employees, investors, and government leaders. He didn't pretend to have all the answers. Instead, he focused on what he could control: thoughtful decisions, transparent communication, and the steady execution of a long-term plan. His ability to remain steady while the world panicked became a defining part of his legacy. JPMorgan did not escape the crisis without challenges, but it remained one of the strongest banks throughout the collapse. Jamie made difficult choices, acquiring distressed institutions like Bear Stearns and Washington Mutual, moves that helped stabilize the financial system, even as they brought enormous responsibility to his company. These decisions were not made for expansion or glory. They were made because Jamie believed leaders should step forward when others step back. In moments of danger, he chose action. Through the worst months of 2008, Jamie never lost sight of the human cost of the crisis. He spoke about families losing their homes, workers fearing layoffs, and communities struggling to recover. He reminded his teams that behind every number was a person facing real hardship. His emphasis on humanity within finance made him stand out in an industry often criticized for coldness. Jamie believed that leadership required not just intelligence, but compassion. By the time the crisis began to ease, Jamie Dimon had become a symbol of steady leadership, someone who brought calm to a system overwhelmed by fear. He didn't celebrate or take victory laps. He simply continued working, reflecting, and strengthening the company for the future. The crisis had revealed something fundamental about him. When the world becomes unstable, the most powerful leadership is often quiet, grounded, and deeply responsible. But Jamie's journey wasn't finished. The years ahead would test him in new ways, pushing him to rethink success, health, and the meaning of resilience itself. As the world slowly recovered from the financial crisis, Jamie Dimon focused on guiding JPMorgan Chase into a new era of stability and responsibility. He knew that rebuilding trust would take years, not months. His leadership shifted from crisis management to long-term rebuilding, strengthening systems, supporting communities, and reminding employees that their work mattered far beyond the walls of the bank. Jamie believed that institutions had a duty to the people they served. That belief shaped every decision he made. He emphasized education, financial literacy, and community development, directing resources toward neighborhoods that needed support the most. Jamie often spoke about economic opportunity as a responsibility, not an obligation. He wanted JPMorgan to be a stabilizing force in people's lives, helping families understand money, avoid unnecessary risk, and build stable futures. His approach wasn't flashy or dramatic. It was steady, consistent, and focused on impact over headlines. But even as the company grew stronger, Jamie faced challenges of his own. Years of constant pressure took a toll on his health. He underwent major heart surgery, a moment that forced him to slow down for the first time in decades. During recovery, he reflected on how quickly life can change and how important it is to appreciate the people around us. This experience deepened his empathy, quieted his ego, and reminded him that leadership begins with humanity. Even the strongest leaders need space to breathe. Returning to his role, Jamie carried a renewed sense of clarity. He became more intentional about how he spent his time, more thoughtful about the future he wanted to build, and more committed to guiding the company with patience and humility. He continued advocating for stability in the global economy, speaking openly about responsibility, fairness, and long-term thinking. Jamie believed that leadership wasn't about doing everything perfectly. It was about doing the right things consistently. As the world changed through new technologies, shifting markets, and economic uncertainties, Jamie stayed calm. He approached every challenge with the same steadiness he developed as a child, the same discipline he learned from his family, and the same resilience he discovered after being fired early in his career. His story showed that setbacks can become turning points, pressure can shape character, and calm leadership can guide millions through uncertain times. Jamie's quiet strength became a pillar in an industry defined by volatility. Looking back on his journey, Jamie Dimon often speaks not about money, but about values. He talks about integrity, patience, and the courage to face difficult truths. He believes leadership is earned through service, not status, and he credits much of his success to the people who shaped him, his family, mentors, colleagues, and the countless individuals whose lives intersected with his work. Behind every decision he made was a belief that companies must serve society, not just themselves. His story stands as a reminder that leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about being steady when others feel uncertain. It's about choosing responsibility over pride, humility over speed, and clarity over chaos. Jamie Dimon's life shows that calm leadership can guide entire institutions through storms, helping millions find stability when they need it most. And his journey encourages all of us to remain grounded no matter where life leads. As this documentary comes to a gentle close, take a moment to breathe deeply. Let Jamie's story remind you that resilience grows quietly through challenges you never asked for but overcame anyway. Let it remind you that your calm, your discipline, and your inner strength matter more than you know. Wherever you are tonight, trust that you are becoming someone stronger, steadier, and more capable with every step you take.